Hi, third grade readers, it's Miss Puzio, and in today's student-facing video, we are in Module 9, Lesson 12, and our focus question is, how does food get to your table? So this is going to be a student-facing video supporting you with today's lesson. So we are still in Module 9, Farm to Table, and today we are on Lesson 12, and we are going to be focusing on tracking reading, notice and note, the three big questions. And today's focus question is, what do I do when something in a text surprises, challenges, or changes what I know about a topic? And we use these big questions when we are focusing on nonfiction passages. So we have some notice and note signposts when we are reading fiction text, and we also have them when we're reading nonfiction text. And these make us much better readers. So today's lesson objective is notice and note information in a text that surprises, challenges, or changes what I know about a topic. We're going to read aloud, track comprehension, and use notice and note signposts. And we're going to ask those three big questions. We're going to read the passage, It's Our Garden, From Seeds to Harvest in a School Garden, and we're going to focus in on the pages 328 to 331. And then you are going to engage in some independent reading and also ask yourselves those three big questions and see what you notice in your independent reading passages. So let's focus on those three big questions. So even though you may have seen them before, and in some prior lessons, we focused on asking and answering questions. When we think of big questions, we're really not thinking of just who, what, when, where. We're not thinking of right there questions like, oh, who is the main character? What is the setting? When did it take place? Where is it happening? We're not really trying to think of questions that are right there in the text. Those are not big questions. These are not questions that cause us to reflect and think deeper. So let's review those three big questions just as a little bit of a refresher. So when we read, we want you to notice as you read to help you reflect more deeply on the text. So remember, signposts are kind of invisible. Think about when you're outside, or if you've ever been in a car, or if you've ever been walking down the street and you've ever seen a stop sign. When you notice it, you stop. And these signposts are things that the author puts in the text, but they're not really always directly visible to you. You, as the reader, have to kind of stop and notice them yourself. You are stopping in the text and you are kind of seeing them yourself, and it's being pointed out to you, but not always directly. Okay? These signposts are kind of like leading you through the passage, okay? And you're stopping and you're noticing them as you read to help you reflect more deeply on the text. So thinking about these big questions helps guide your discussions about what we read in a more meaningful way. Okay? This is why it's called noticing and noting, okay? Or notice and note. It helps us stop and think more deeply about the text. So big question one, what surprised you? When you're surprised, you're thinking about something you haven't known before. So something you read, something you did not know, something that you learned in the passage you did not know before, something new to you, information you just learned, information that was very surprising to you, information that you did not know before. And when we read nonfiction passages, there's always going to be information that surprises us. Big question two, what did the author think you already knew? And we know that as prior knowledge. Okay, we always come into nonfiction text with prior knowledge, information we already know, because we always try to activate it. Okay, and sometimes the author assumes, right? Assumes means that they think we already know some things. So sometimes it's hard to understand some nonfiction passages because we might have to understand some words, some vocabulary words we don't know. We might have to understand some topics we don't know. This is about gardens. There might be some content area words we don't know. There might be some information we don't know, and we might have to stop and ask ourselves some questions about it, understand a little bit deeper. Otherwise, it'll be a little more difficult to understand. And big question three, what challenged, confirmed, or changed what I knew? Did your thinking change? Did you assume something when you were reading? Did your thinking change from the beginning to the end of the passage? Did you already think something and it turned out to be true or different? So this makes us reading nonfiction a little more exciting. So today we're going to practice those questions with reading and continuing to read the passage. It's Our Garden from Seeds to Harvest in a School Garden. And we're going to read pages 328 to 331 to read more about where food comes from. And as we read, we will notice when information surprises us or challenges what we know about this topic. So sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to focus on all three questions. So I want us to focus on one right now. And to me, I'd like us to focus on what surprises us. What is surprising us while we are reading right now? So as we go through pages 328 to 331, let's focus on what surprised us or what is surprising us as we are reading. So again, we're thinking about, just to refresh you, when you are reading and something the author shares does not match what you think or know, again, we're asking ourselves those three big questions. But just for now, I just want us to focus on one, what surprised me, so that at least we can just hone in on one and not overwhelm ourselves. So right now I'm on page 328, and as I read aloud, follow along with me, and I want you to think about, as we're reading, is there anything that's surprising you? Anything that you did not know or something that stands out to you as a surprising fact or piece of information? Springtime is planting time. That is something we all know, right? We often grow flowers in the springtime. There are a few of the seeds that will be planted in the garden. When it's still cold outside, some seeds are planted in the greenhouse. There, students fill small plastic pots with rich soil and plant a seed in each. The pots are left in the greenhouse. The sun warms them. Soon, tiny seedlings begin to pop out of the soil. So I'm going to stop there, and as I'm reading that, I'm thinking to myself, that's something we know, that we plant things in dirt. Sun usually helps plants grow. Okay, that's something that we know. When they are bigger and the weather is warmer, the plants will be transplanted into the garden beds outside. Flowers, vegetables, and fruits are planted in beds of rich, composted earth. A teepee made of bamboo poles stands in the middle of the garden. Some students plant pole bean seeds at the base of each pole. The plants will grow up the teepee and sprout their pods. Transplanted. If you transplanted something, you took it from the place it was growing and planted it in a new place. So the author is helping us with that vocabulary word. Meanwhile, in the morning shade of the school, Paul hands out seeds to plant in a waffle bed. The bed's low walls of adobe bricks help keep water in. Another group of students plant squash seedlings. Danielle helps a student transplant a tomato seedling. Once the seeds and seedlings are in the ground, the beds are watered and covered with a mulch of straw. This helps to keep the soil from drying out. So that could be something surprising, right? If you put mulch in your garden, you put straw or wood chips around your plants to help protect them. A lot of water is needed to keep the garden healthy. That is also something many of us know. When it rains, water flows off the roof down a drain pipe and into an underground tank called a cistern. A solar panel on the roof of the outdoor classroom creates electricity to run the pump that draws water from the cistern. One of the students' favorite jobs is watering the garden. Miss Sue fills the colorful watering cans for them. The tomato plants are surrounded by plastic tubes filled with water. During the day, the sun warms the water in the tubes. At night, the tubes provide the warmth that the tomato roots need to grow. When there is no rainwater in the cistern, a hose attached to an outdoor faucet is used to keep the soil moist and plants healthy. So as I'm rereading that, there's a lot of content area words there that are a little confusing as you can go back and reread. I'm going to go read back and reread this paragraph and think about what surprised me here. Okay, it says here the tomato plants are surrounded by plastic tubes filled with water. During the day, because I usually, when I'm thinking about plants growing, I'm thinking about the sun warming them, I'm thinking about them growing in the daytime. And here, something that surprised me is at night, the tubes provide the warmth that tomato roots need to grow. So, something that's surprising me is that tomato roots need to be warm to grow. So, as you continue to read, I want you to continue to think about those three questions, but I want you to focus on that one question. What surprised you? Information that you didn't already know, because we're always constantly thinking about things we already did know. Okay? Well, a lot of water is needed to keep the garden healthy. Those things we know. The sun helps plants grow. That we know. The seeds need to go in soil. That we know. One new thing that we just learned that I didn't know, the sun warms the water tubes, and then at night the tubes provide warmth that helps the tomato roots stay warm. That's also needed to grow. So that's also something that changed our thinking here and challenged our thinking. We didn't know that. So I wonder what other things we're going to learn more in this passage that's going to surprise us and really help us become better readers here. So as you go forth in your independent reading, I really want you to keep that question in mind. Okay? What surprised you?